The storm clouds hung low over the massive glass building that once symbolized success, pride, and unstoppable growth. Inside, however, panic had seeped into every hallway, every whispered conversation, every trembling employee wondering what tomorrow might bring. The company, Valen Corp., once valued in billions, was now on the verge of bankruptcy. Shares had plummeted, investors were withdrawing, and the boardroom was filled with people who pretended to stay calm but shook with fear inside. At the center of this chaos was Adrian Cole, the CEO, a man known for his sharp decisions but broken now under the pressure of a financial catastrophe no one could explain. For weeks, auditors had combed through every file, every contract, every tiny numerical entry in the systems. They found nothing, at least nothing that explained the sudden disappearance of $1 billion from the company's financial structure. $1 billion wasn't something that got misplaced. It was either stolen or strategically hidden. Yet every trace, every trail, every log suggested the same conclusion. Someone had manipulated the system so flawlessly that even the best in the business couldn't detect it. Adrian hadn't slept in days. His office lights stayed on through the nights, casting long shadows on stacks of papers he kept reading again and again even though he knew the numbers wouldn't magically change. His reputation, his life's work, his employees' future, all of it was collapsing. The board had already hinted he might be removed. Reporters camped outside the building. Rumors of fraud flooded social media. His phone buzzed constantly with calls he didn't want to answer. He felt alone, cornered, and defeated. Downstairs, in a quiet corner of the building few ever paid attention to, worked Maria, an elderly cleaning lady who had served the company for nearly 18 years. She never learned how to use the fancy digital machines, the new automated vacuums, or the gliding robots they had introduced. She preferred her old broom, her mop, her rag, and her small cart full of supplies. She cleaned quietly, observing the world without being noticed. People rarely spoke to her beyond a rushed, "Good morning." She always smiled anyway. That evening, she entered Adrian's office. He didn't even notice her at first. His elbows were on the table, hands pressed against his forehead, eyes staring blankly at the screen. His suit jacket lay on the couch, tie loosened, hair a mess. She watched him for a second. She had seen him over the years, confident, powerful, commanding. But this man looked like he was carrying mountains on his shoulders. "Sir," she said softly, "should I clean later?" He looked up, startled, then forced a tired smile. "No, Maria, it's okay. I'm just working." "You look worried." Her voice was gentle. Adrian laughed under his breath. Worried would be an understatement. The company might not survive this month. Maria nodded as she wiped dust off his shelves. She didn't understand finance, but she understood fear and exhaustion. She had raised 3 children alone. She knew what it meant to struggle. After a moment, she saw a stack of printed financial records on the couch. Papers were spread across the cushions, some falling on the floor. She bent to pick them up. As she gathered them, her eyes caught a strange inconsistency. A date, a repeated code, a line formatted differently than the others. She wasn't educated in finance, but she had a strange habit. She noticed patterns. She always did, even in cleaning schedules, supply orders, or daily routines of people around her. She noticed things others didn't. She frowned and looked at the next sheet. The same odd code appeared again. And again. She couldn't interpret the numbers, but she could tell. Something didn't match. "Sir," she said quietly, holding up the papers. "These lines, they look different from the others." Adrian turned, about to dismiss it politely. But something in her tone made him take the papers from her hand. He looked. At first, he saw nothing new. Then, on the 5th page, he froze. His heartbeat kicked up. He grabbed the next page, then the next. Suddenly, it all clicked. A hidden entry, a duplicated code, a subtle shift in formatting that was nearly invisible, but not to someone like Maria. He stood up so abruptly that Maria jumped. "Maria, how did you see this?" She shrugged shyly. "It just looked wrong. Different." Adrian ran to his computer, pulling up the system entries. He typed furiously. His eyes widened. His jaw tightened. Someone inside the accounting department had created a ghost account, a shell entry that rerouted funds in tiny fractions over years. Fractions no one noticed, but the total, $1 billion. And the person covering it had made sure all digital signatures matched. Except for one mistake. They manually entered part of the code, which made the spacing differ by one invisible point. A human error so microscopic that even auditors missed it. But Maria, who saw the world in patterns, caught it while picking up papers from the floor. He turned back to her, almost speechless. "You just saved this company." She laughed nervously. "Me? No, sir. I only picked up papers." "No, Maria, you solved what the most expensive auditors in the country couldn't. This is the breakthrough we needed." He called the legal team. Then the head of cybersecurity. Then the board. The room filled with experts analyzing the anomaly Maria found. Within an hour, the culprit was identified: Mark Reynolds, the deputy financial officer, a man trusted by everyone. He had siphoned money slowly, planning to flee the country within days, thinking his perfect fraud would never be detected. But he hadn't accounted for a cleaning lady who saw what others ignored. By midnight, Mark was arrested. By morning, the news spread everywhere. Headlines changed from Valancourt collapsed to fraudster caught, company saved. Adrian regained control. Investors returned. Stocks rose slowly but steadily. Employees breathed again. And in the middle of all this was Maria, standing awkwardly at the edge of a crowded conference room while executives clapped for her. Adrian walked to her with a warmth she had never seen in him. "You didn't just save the company," he said. "You saved thousands of jobs. Including mine." Maria smiled, embarrassed. "I just noticed something strange." Adrian shook his head. "Sometimes the most important eyes are the ones we take for granted." He offered her a promotion. Not in cleaning, but in a newly created role: quality pattern supervisor, responsible for overseeing human error detection across departments. She tried to refuse, saying she wasn't educated enough, but Adrian insisted. "You have a gift, and gifts deserve opportunity." He also arranged full scholarships for her grandchildren, something that made her eyes fill with tears. Weeks passed. The company stabilized. Adrian changed as a leader: more observant, more appreciative, more human. He often remembered that in the darkest hour, salvation didn't come from experts in suits. It came from a humble woman with tired hands and a sharp eye. And every time Maria walked into the building, employees greeted her respectfully. Some even stopped to chat. She never sought attention, but life had changed for her. She was no longer invisible. One evening, as she stood at the window of her new small office, looking at the city lights, she whispered to herself, "Funny how life works. One moment you're cleaning floors, the next you're cleaning mistakes no one else can see." Below her, the company lights glowed brighter than before, a symbol not just of recovery, but of humility, gratitude, and the unexpected heroes who shaped the world quietly. And all of it began with a broom, a stack of papers, and a pair of eyes that noticed what billions of dollars tried to hide.